Behind me is my 2007 Lexus GX470. I daily drive this thing, and I also take it overlanding and camping. If you've watched my other videos, you know that I love this vehicle. Today, I'm going to be going through and kind of showing you what to look for if you were to be purchasing one of these vehicles. And with today's video, I'm going to show you 5 things that you should be watching out for if you were to buy one of these. The first thing I would look for is I would look through all the suspension parts and everything and the frame. But a lot of people, they'll just kind of glance, they'll look in, and hopefully you have good lighting. Typically, you'll see a little bit of rust, but what I would do is I would physically get under the vehicle and look at the frame. So you'll want to look underneath the vehicle, make sure that the rust is good. If you end up having a little bit of surface rust, that's not a deal breaker. But what I would definitely recommend is that you always look under any vehicle that you're looking at, especially if it's a Toyota platform. You just don't want to run into any issues. I'm going to throw up a couple images here of some Toyotas that I've seen online that have had really bad frames. One that I was looking at before I purchased this vehicle, I was actually looking at another GX460, that the frame, you could actually take your fist and you could actually put it through the frame because the hole that had come from the rust was just so bad. So number one, look under the vehicle, look at the frame, look at the suspension parts, and look for rust. The second most important thing for your vehicle that you look at is going to be your timing belt and the water pump replaced. I don't know 100%, but I believe every 100,000 miles on these, you should be getting those replaced. So if it hasn't been done, see if you can work something out with the dealership for them to do it, or if it's a private party, see if you guys can split the cost, whatever it may be. But I would definitely recommend getting that done with pretty much any vehicle, but especially with these. The third thing that I would watch for is your CV axles and your lower control arm bushings and ball joints. It's pretty common for a Toyota to actually have a failure at the ball joint on the lower control arm. I'll throw a couple photos of what that looks like underneath the vehicle. Right now, the bottom of my car has actually not been cleaned off very well because I haven't had a chance to get it in to get it fully detailed. But it's important to make sure that whether it's been done or not, when you buy one of these vehicles, it's important to do that because, as you can see from these photos, it's actually a very detrimental thing that can happen to the vehicle. I saw an older 4Runner on a trail once where the ball joint or the CV axle, one of those two, gave way and broke, and he was stuck on the trail. And it can lead to more and more damage on your vehicle than just spending a little bit of money and getting those parts fixed. So that's what I would do for step number 3, is I would replace your ball joints and your bushings for your lower control arms. The second thing I'd look for is up at the front. So I would crawl underneath, or especially look underneath the vehicle, see if there are any drips or spills. With my vehicle, I actually just had to gut out the power steering because I had a crack in my hose, and that was a mess and a disaster. But my garage has always had big spots of oil from my power steering fluid. Always look underneath, make sure that you don't have any leaks from oil. Look at your CV axles, make sure that you don't have any rips or tears in those, to make sure that the grease is not coming out and flying all over the vehicle. If you see grease on the outside of the boots for the CV axles, that's a sign that there's probably something going on, and you want to make sure that you either get that taken care of or talk to the person selling the vehicle to see if you can work something out. So this last one is number 5, and it's something that for me has been a really big issue. So when I bought the vehicle in Texas, the person who sold it to me, he lied to me because he just wanted to sell the vehicle. But I went out to Texas with my dad, and I bought the vehicle, and he hinted, he wasn't even in the vehicle, but he hinted that it was overheating. And for me, that sounded strange. He said that the temperature was probably going up. Things weren't adding up. I was excited to buy it, so I said, it's probably not a big deal. But on my way home from purchasing this vehicle, it overheated countless times. It just had issues with putting coolant in the right spot, and then it just basically ran out of coolant. So I know it's kind of difficult to figure out if a car has a head gasket issue, but some signs that I would look for are if you're kind of at an idle speed and your vehicle has the heater on, but it starts going cold if you're not moving, or vice versa. That's one of the telltale signs that I noticed, is if I'm running low on coolant, either my heater or my AC won't be working to its full capacity. So that mixed with your temperature spiking. So I actually hit traffic on one of my trips. We were just cruising on the freeway. I had already topped it off with coolant. At that point, I had already replaced the clutch fan and the radiator cap, which I thought was the issue. But come to find out, as we were going through traffic, we're going about 70, 80 miles an hour. And then all of a sudden, traffic just was a dead stop. We're waiting in traffic, and I noticed that my temperature gauge starts going up and up and up. I was getting a little nervous. I had the thermostat replaced because I thought that maybe that would be something that might fix it, but it ended up not doing that. Moving forward, I know that it has a head gasket issue. I've had a few tests done on the vehicle, and I've just gotten to the point where I'm just going to have to accept that for now, until I get it fixed, I'm just going to have to put coolant in the vehicle after about a 2-hour drive. So I can usually go about 2 hours before the vehicle will actually start overheating, especially if I'm slowing down. So if you end up getting one of these with a head gasket issue, one of the things that could help you as you're doing the research on the vehicle is to go to that Lexus website, put the VIN number in, and as you're looking through that, make sure that if the radiator has been replaced. For me, and maybe I'm going to get a lot of comments about this, but if the radiator's been replaced, it's usually a sign for me that something's wrong with the coolant or something's wrong with the vehicle overheating. Typically, that's what I found with a lot of Lexuses that I've looked at. So if you are looking through those and you see that a radiator has been replaced, or there's any notes in there talking about it overheating or whatever it may be, that's probably your sign that it's actually got a head gasket issue. And that's pretty expensive. It can be anywhere. I've had it quoted from anywhere from $4,000 to over $6,200. If you are part of a group on Facebook, they actually have a ton of people that have been posting pictures of this reservoir catch area where it's actually got a ton of coolant in it. And I'll see someone post about it, and then I'm like, oh, here we go. And you'll see tons of people posting saying, I had the same issue, whether it's a GX460 or a 470. Typically, it's the V8 on these Toyotas. I don't know why. And I know people are going to start commenting that, you know, the Toyota platform is perfect and there's never any issues. But I've had nothing but issues with this since I bought it. So do your homework, make sure that you get the right vehicle, but watch out for any head gasket issues. There's also a huge group on Facebook. It's called GXOR. It's a really good resource, and it's a really cool community where the owners of this group have really done a good job of being able to help people in the community with the issues that they have. There's also a GXOR marketplace for these. So on Facebook, if you go to that group, there's actually tons of these going up for sale. I've seen some of them go from $2,000 to $3,000 for some that are in really, really rough shape, all the way up to $26,000, $27,000. The market's all over the place. You'll typically find them hovering around $10,000 or $20,000. But if you look on those two groups, they're a really good platform for you to be able to reach out to the community and either find what you're looking for or figure out the solution for what issues you're running into. So in conclusion, the 5 things that I would recommend that you look at if you're buying a GX470, the first one's going to be rust. Second one is going to be the timing belt and the water pump. The third one is going to be looking at the ball joints and the bushings for the lower control arms especially. There are also a lot of components in that area that I would also look at, but that's a really big one that I would be looking at. The fourth one is going to be looking for leaks on that vehicle. And the fifth one, which is a little bit harder, but it's very important, is the head gasket issue. Those are my tips and tricks for looking at a GX470. These tips can also migrate towards the other V8 platforms from Toyota, whether that's the GX460, GX470, the Toyota Sequoia, the 4Runner, as well as the Tundra. So I would recommend do your homework. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comments below, and I will do my best to get to all those and answer any questions that you guys have. So with that, hopefully I'll see you out on one of the trails, but you guys have a good day. I'll see you later.